Ball Boys? We are back. Dave is here.
I'm here.
I'm Eddie.
Here.
Just a quick reminder, we are now out on all platforms, including Spotify and Apple, but we're also on YouTube now. You can find us at the Ball Boys Podcast on YouTube. We also have a TikTok page up and running with where videos are going to be posted on there. So that's at the Ball Boys Podcast 2024. So check us out because we are on
Video.
on video, not just the audio side of things. Although, like I said, still available on Apple and Spotify. Okay. Today's show is the Eastern Conference preview show where we rank our teams from 1 to 15. Now,
full disclosure.
Yeah, we did this podcast a couple days ago. We were in the process of editing it and flipping it around. And then the Karl Anthony Towns trade happens on Friday night to the Knicks, which obviously changes a lot in the Eastern hierarchy. So we got on the phone. We were like, look, we're going to have to retape this podcast. So this is take 2 of the Eastern Conference standings, the updated Eastern Conference standings that will come out in the next day or so. Dad, are you ready?
I am ready, Eddie.
Okay. You started in the Western Conference one, so I'm going to go first.
Okay.
And I have my list here on my phone. And here's how it goes. At 1, the New York Knicks.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about this trade and what it means.
Oh, absolutely.
But we're just going to do our rankings first. So number 1, I have New York. Number 2, I have the Boston Celtics.
Yeah.
Number 3, I have the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yep.
Number 4, I have the Milwaukee Bucks.
Ooh, risque.
Well, is it? They gotta be honest. At 5, I have Orlando.
Yep.
6, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Me too.
At 7, I have the Indiana Pacers.
See, I swapped it with we swapped those. I have Indiana at 4 and the Bucks at 7. So
okay, well, we'll talk about that. At 8, the Toronto Raptors.
I have them as well.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily that I think they're going to be good per se. It's more that I kind of think the rest of the East is bad. I mean, when we were talking about the West, it was like we got to 12, 13 teams where it's like, okay, these are still good teams here.
Yeah.
In the East, once you get past 7, it just falls off a cliff, man.
It does. It really does.
As you're about to see. 9, I have the Miami Heat, who I am fading this season. I have the Detroit Pistons, 10.
Ooh, okay.
The Charlotte Hornets as a plucky 11 seed, you know? I kind of like some of their young talent. Brandon Miller, the new kid they drafted from France. You know, if LaMelo can stay healthy, who knows? Atlanta at 12. Chicago at 13. I have Washington, the Wizards, at 14. And then Brooklyn as the worst team in the East.
Interesting. Very similar to mine, actually. Now, it's interesting because when we did this last, a couple of days ago, I switched up, a couple of things.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have a mulligan because no one will know because that episode is gone forever.
No, I know, but it made me think of like
you had Brooklyn pretty high in that one, so
I did. I have them lower.
Just complete lunacy, and I made fun of you quite a bit for that. So you kind of got a mulligan on that one.
I know. Okay, so here's my 15. Boston number 1. Okay. The Knicks number 2. Philly number 3. Indiana number 4.
You just can't quit the Pacers, man.
I know. Orlando, I agree with you at 5, and Cleveland at 6. I have the Bucks at 7.
Okay.
The Raps I have at 8 as well, as you do. I have the Hawks at 9.
The Hawks at 9?
Yeah.
Really? After trading DeJounte Murray?
Yeah. They've got some guys on that squad that can play. The Heat at 10 because they're fading. The Nets at 11. I don't know why I have the Nets at 11.
Yeah, but, I don't know why. What is it with the Nets than you this year?
Well, here's the thing. From 11 to 15, they're all. It's a toss-up, right? They're all pretty much the same.
Yeah, they're all.
So I've got the Nets at 11, Pistons at 12, Bulls 13, Wiz 14, and I have the Hornets at 15. They're just not ready yet. They got some good young guys, but it's going to take them a while.
I'm curious as to what you're seeing in Brooklyn there, but I mean, like you said, all those teams are bad. So, but what do you see in Brooklyn? I got to ask.
I don't know. Cam
Who's
Johnson?
Cam Johnson? That's where you're leading off. My God,
Hey,
who's the best
Claxton.
player on that
Okay,
team?
Claxton.
Nick
Obviously.
Claxton? Seriously, you're
Yeah,
throwing Nick Claxton in my face?
yeah,
They're the
yeah,
worst team in the
yeah.
league, man. Like this. Look at their roster; it's terrible.
Yeah, but look at their coach. Jody Fernandez is great.
Well, really, because he didn't even win a medal for Canada. Great job, buddy.
Yeah,
Thanks for
well,
that one.
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I know. I did the Nets. Yeah.
The Nets are terrible. Let's start with the New York Knicks because
Okay.
obviously this is the big story. The trade, Karl Anthony Towns comes in, Dante
Yep.
DiVincenzo and Julius Randle going to Minnesota.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. So, first of all, regardless of what you think of Cat, this
Yeah.
is from a talent in, talent out sort of perspective. It's a win for the New York Knicks. It just is.
Absolutely.
Karl Anthony Towns coming into a perfect situation for him. He's still one of the best 3-point shooting bigs in the league.
Yep.
He's a bucket getter, man. He knows how to score the ball, and he can
Yep.
give you 20 points a night. Easy. Good defensive player when he's engaged and
Hmm.
he's in the right system. And it's a perfect fit. They needed a center. This is what we talked about on that lost episode that will never come out. You know, part of the discussion with the Knicks was where does Julius Randle fit? And can you go into a season with Mitch Robinson as your starting center?
Right.
Well, they've answered all those questions now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they sent Julius out. It was time for a change. They bring in Cat coming off a good season. Now, look, the pressure playing New York, I don't know if Cat's necessarily one of those built for New York kind of guys. Um,
No, he's not. But yeah, and that's why I have the Knicks at 2 instead of 1, because it's going to take, as all the points that you said are correct. Like he's a perfect fit for this team, but it's going to take them time to gel. It's not going to happen overnight. Now it might. I mean, I'm not saying the Knicks are going to be bad. They're going to be really good. I even say, okay, they might win the East. Who knows?
they could win the East.
They could absolutely with this roster. Yeah. My question is, Eddie, like, if you're Minnesota, why is there like
Well,
some
because
what
well,
is
because
it just salary dump or
yeah,
what?
yes, because his contract's up at the end of the year, right? And then you're gonna have to give him a $250 million extension. And
Right.
now you're paying Cat 300 or 250. You're paying Gobert 300 million. You're paying Anthony Edwards 300 million, and
Right.
they didn't want to have to make that decision.
Right.
They figured like it is what it is. They got a year out
But
of Randall, who has a player option.
Randall's just a horrible fit for that team. I mean,
I
it's
agree.
Ant's team. I mean,
You're right. He's a clunky fit. He's a clunky fit. I think picking up DiVincenzo is important.
yeah,
It can't be understated. At the same time, I think the pendulum has swung a little too much on Dante DiVincenzo. Like there were
yeah,
people talking about, well, the Knicks are gonna really miss him and stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, I get it. He was their best 3-point shooter last year from a percentage wise, but
yeah,
it's Dante DiVincenzo. He's like
yeah. I mean,
he's a
yeah,
third guard in the rotation. Like
right.
let's take it down a notch. He's not, Vinny
Yeah.
Johnson. All right.
No.
Or
Anyway,
prime Jamal Crawford.
like you said, the Knicks absolutely won that trade, and
Yeah,
you
totally.
know,
Totally.
so that's a formidable lineup. I mean, you got Bridges up front with Towns and OG, and then in the backcourt, Hart and and Brunson. I mean, my God, that's a starting five, man.
It's a pretty good starting five. It like you said, Cat, OG, and Bridges with Hart and Jalen Brunson. Yeah, that's probably what they'll go with, I would
Yeah,
imagine.
I
You
would
lose the
imagine.
3-point shooting at DiVincenzo, but you're bringing in Bridges, who's a great corner 3-point shooter.
Yep,
Cat's a really good 3-point shooter. Like
yep.
that's what he brings. Obviously,
Interesting.
there's questions about Karl Anthony Towns. I'm not a huge Cat guy. I don't think a lot of people are, but regardless, if he's in this kind of situation where he can be either your second or third best player depending on the night,
Mhm.
I think it's a perfect fit.
I do
And
too, and I mean, I'm just seeing ahead, like lots of pick and rolls with Brunson. His ability to pop out in the corner three or take it from the high post is great because it opens up the floor
yeah.
for not only for Brunson to attack the basket, but for Bridges and
Mhm.
Hart and et cetera, et cetera. So
Yeah.
it allows better ball movement. It's just a win-win.
Still don't love
Um,
their bench, but I have them as the 1 seed. I think they're going to win a ton of games.
I can understand that. The reason I have them two is because I still think the Celtics are a better team.
And
And
let's
hey,
talk about Boston.
don't get me wrong, because listen, the Knicks are my third favorite team all
Oh, here
time,
we go.
ever, ever, ever. And right, so um, I'm a huge Knicks fan. And I want them to beat the Celtics really bad, but I have to be a realist, and the Celtics are a championship team. There's not going to be a drop off. That team is built for two or three titles, and so yeah, I mean they might suffer a little hangover. The question with Boston is Porzingis. If he can stay healthy and come back soon or sooner than later anyway. Um, then they'll be okay. But if he's out for a long time and they get off to a rough start, who knows?
I think they'll be fine. I do agree the Porzingis thing. I mean, they're gonna put him on ice until the All-Star break. That's my prediction. So they're
Mm,
gonna not have him for the first 2/3 of the season, basically.
wow.
But I still think they'll be fine.
Yeah,
And it's funny, Boston kind of is coming in with a chip on their shoulder, weirdly, even though they just won the title,
I know.
because Jalen's pissed off because he was snubbed from the USA team,
Hmm.
and Jason Tatum is pissed off because he got no playing time for the USA
Right.
team. And so somehow they win the title, but they're pissed off,
Yeah.
which is
Pissed off at each other.
well, no, they're pissed off at the league, man.
Yeah, the league.
I
Yeah.
think the Celtics will be a machine again this year. There's no
That is,
doubt about it. And it's funny, I got a little mulligan too because in our dead podcast that will never air, I
right.
had Philadelphia as the one seed. Thank God I had some time to think about that and reassess my life.
Yeah.
Um, for picking the I not only that, I'll put it out there. I picked the Sixers to win the title.
You did.
I just
Yeah,
decided,
that was stupid.
but you know what?
I picked those OKC.
You did. But now that I've had some time to think about it, now with this Knicks trade, I'm going Knicks 1, Boston 2. I'm not fucking around here. And I got Philly in the 3 spot, as do you.
As do I. Yep.
They're going to be really good, man. They're
They're going
still,
to be good. I mean, Paul George is going to help.
yes,
You know,
absolutely.
but I love Maxi. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a big Embiid fan, so
But I mean, like, the guy is
they'll be
dominant,
good.
Dad.
But
There's no doubt about it. The guy is, like, when he's healthy, I mean, he's like a 30 and 15 every night, you know? And,
yeah,
I mean, he was the MVP of the league last year. And, this year, we'll see what happens. He can't get hurt. He has to be healthy in the springtime. That's all that matters because they're going to win
yeah,
games, right? They got a good
yeah,
coach. They got Maxi is on the rise. The Paul George
yeah,
thing is basically to take the load off of Embiid during the regular season. That's why they
yeah,
brought him in,
yeah,
right? And because Paul George on a Tuesday night in Orlando in January, he can go for 30 and carry your offense,
yeah.
right? I don't think
Also, the guy from France's national team, they signed him.
Oh yeah, the Lazort guy that killed
Yeah,
Team
big
Canada.
power forward. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. They still
he's
have
going to
Kelly
help.
Oubre, who's a good role player.
Yeah,
I love the kid Jared McCain that they drafted out of Duke.
yeah.
He's going to be their backup point guard. He can play. That was a
Mhm.
good pick for them at like 14. I think they got
No,
him.
they're going to be a good team, Ed.
They
Like,
still got Kyle kicking around. Yeah, like
yeah,
they're the top 3 in the East is really good.
yeah,
And that brings me to number 4. Okay, so you have the
Indiana.
Pacers.
Yeah,
I have the Bucks.
right.
Which team you want to start with?
Let's go with the Pacers.
Okay. Because this
I
is
really
interesting, just
like this
quickly
team.
before you get into this, because
Yeah,
you have the Pacers 4 and the Bucks 7. I
yep,
have it inverted. I have the Bucks 4, the Pacers 7. So
right.
you've been a fan of the Pacers for a while now.
Yep.
Going back to last season into the playoffs. What do you like about this team?
I like the makeup of this team. It's Halliburton's team. Siakam has been a perfect fit. He didn't, and now he has a chance to play for a whole year.
Mhm.
Um, Miles Turner is still a force in the middle. They got great guard help from Nebhard and um, uh, what's his name? Oh gosh, I can't think of his name.
Benedict Mathurin.
Matherin, yeah, he missed half the year last year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited about him. And yeah, I like the team, man. Like they're hungry. They were overmatched against the Celts, and but hey, it's growing pains, right? It reminds me of the Raptors at a certain stage when they were learning how to lose to Cleveland, and
Learning how to lose to LeBron every year. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
You know what I mean? So I
Yeah,
like the
but
and in the
here's the
terms of the
thing.
Bucks, okay,
Okay.
they're old and creaky. I love Giannis. He's still top five in the world, but the rest of the team, I could beat some of those guys.
Look, okay, everybody's out on the Bucks. I think that I think it's gone. Like I said, the pendulum shifting thing with with DiVincenzo, I think it shifted a little too far. This team is still a top four team in the East. They just are.
Well,
Look,
that's because the rest of the East is so bad,
well,
Eddie.
right. But this is what we're talking about here, right? Like you have them seven.
Yeah.
I just think with Giannis Antetokounmpo, and I made this point in our first take here, and I'm going to make the same point to you, Dad. I go back to the Spurs in the mid 2000s with Duncan. Every year, this was the discussion. You literally would say those exact words. No, the Spurs are old and creaky. They don't have it this year. Parker, Ginobili, Duncan, so what? It's 2008 now, and it's over. And every year, they would win 50 games. And you look up in
Mhm.
April, and they're the third
Yeah.
seed. And it's like, how did the Spurs win 53 games this year? Because they have Tim Duncan. He
Yeah.
one of the greatest players of all time. Giannis gets no respect, man. That guy was the MVP of the league like 3 years ago, and he won a title in 2021. He was the best player in the world, and he's still a top three player in the world. But the recency bias is so because he got hurt the last 2 years in the playoffs. He wasn't around,
Mhm.
right?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
people tend to forget. But like that dude is a monster. That team was a mess last year, an absolute
Yeah.
mess.
It
And they
wasn't.
still won like 55 games. They had
Yeah,
their
but it's
coach.
still a mess.
Yeah, but they still won 55 games
Uh,
because Giannis is just that good. And like
yeah,
they had the
but
coaching issue last year with Adrian Griffin. He was horrible.
yeah,
And
he
they bring
was.
in Doc, so at least now they have some stability. Say what you want about Doc Rivers. He knows how to
Uh,
coach superstars. I like Doc. What, you don't like Doc?
no, I don't.
Oh.
I used to, but no, but I don't like him.
Doc is still a good coach. He's a
I've
good
never liked him
coach.
on when he was coaching the Clippers. I didn't like him when he was coaching the Celts. No, I just don't like the guy.
Okay, fair
I
enough.
like,
But he's a better coach than Adrian Stupid Griffin, who's an
yeah,
idiot.
he is
And
absolutely. But listen, I mean, like they're old, Eddie. I mean,
I
like
get it. I get it. But look,
Brooke Lopez, like, come on, man, he's
I get it.
washed.
I'm not saying the Bucks are going to win the title, but like with Giannis, the Chris Middleton thing is a big issue. He's banged up. I think he might be past the point of no
See,
return.
that's why I
But
have the Bucks at 7. I mean, they'll make the playoffs, but
I I think they're
they're
going to
not.
be better than you think that. And look, the
No,
Dame Lillard thing, he has said he came into camp completely out of shape last year because he didn't work out all last summer because he was in the trade talks and he didn't want to get hurt and tank his trade value. So he
blah
had to
blah.
play himself into shape. This guy's only 2 seasons removed from having like one of the best offensive seasons anybody's ever had in league history in his last year in Portland. Like I mean, the guy
Yeah,
was, he can still score. He can't play defense,
no,
but
that's the thing, right? So,
right.
and
But
that's the issue that I had with the Bucks last year is that their defense like fell off,
yeah,
man.
but I
Like,
mean, but again, like they still won like 55 games last year, Dad. Like, I don't think the
they're not
Bucks
going
are
to win in the
perfect.
playoffs, Eddie, without defense.
Okay, but that's not what we're talking about, though. We're talking about winning regular season games. And when
All
you
right,
be
fair enough.
honest, there's a baseline of how many games you're going to win. I just think you're going to win 50 plus if you have them on your team.
Wow,
I like
I
the
think that's a little generous, but okay.
I mean, that was the case with the Spurs. And they were starting like the Red Rocket, Matt Bonner, and fucking like Fabricio Oberto.
Yeah,
It just didn't matter because
yeah.
Duncan was that good, right? And like when you have Giannis putting up 30
But also
13,
look at the coach and look at the system. I
okay, I
mean,
get it. Sure, fine. But
that's a little bit better than the Bucks.
fair enough. Fair enough. But anyway, I just think that Giannis is too good to be to be in the seven. If he's healthy, like unless he gets hurt, I just think like there's a floor with them.
Well, maybe it's
And
somewhere in the middle, Maybe the Bucks will come in at 5 or 6.
you
Who
might be
knows?
right. But here's the other thing. I'm out on it on Indiana this year. Um, so we disagree on that too, which is fun. I
I
like
know.
to disagree. My take on Indiana, because you kind of made the case and I see it, but every once in a while there's a conference finals team, and we've talked about this, that shouldn't really be in the conference finals, and then they make it because some shit breaks their way in the playoffs, and then they come the next year and it's like, well, they made the conference finals last year, so logic says they're gonna take another step. And it's like that's not always how it works. Um
I get it.
it's the 2021 Atlanta Hawks, right? When they beat the Julius Randle led Knicks in the first round. Then in the second round, they get a Philly team where Ben Simmons is,
Ben Simmons.
that was exit stage right for Ben.
Yep.
And he falls apart and they beat Philly. That whole Philly team collapses. And then all of a sudden, like you look up and it's like, oh, Atlanta's in the conference finals. And then they get smoked by Milwaukee. This is kind of what happened to Indiana last year. They get the Bucks in the first round, no Giannis. And then all of a sudden Dame gets hurt. And by the end of that series, it was like Chris Middleton on one leg and like Pat Beverly and, just like Pat Connaughton and shit. Like everybody got hurt on the Bucks.
Yeah.
Then in the second round, they probably should have lost to the Knicks, but everybody on the Knicks gets hurt.
Yep.
And they steal that series. And then they go into the conference finals, they get killed by Boston. So it's like, I get it. It's cool they made the conference finals. And Halliburton was hurt for a lot of that. So you gotta mention that. But
Yeah.
I just think there's better teams.
I get your point, but about the conference finals things, but hey, I go by my eyeballs, right? And they're a hungry team. They're a good.
They're
young
hungry. There we go. We got a hungry.
I'm hungry.
We're gonna keep a counter of how many times Dave
I'm
says
cooking a turkey
the team
today.
is hungry. Oh, are you?
Yeah,
It's not even Thanksgiving yet.
I know. I was going to.
Is this like a practice turkey? Is this like a practice turkey?
Well, I was going to cook a turkey for my birthday like 2 weeks ago, and nobody in Toronto, like no grocery store in Toronto has frozen turkeys. Like what? So I wanted to get, they don't. Nobody has fresh, obviously.
Yeah, because it's September, man. Like they start selling turkeys.
Well, that's what the guy did in one grocery store. He said, we don't, and now it's seasonal. We only get it in the seasonal kind of events, like
Yeah, duh.
Well, yeah, but
Who's gonna like? Okay, if you're Sobeys, okay, are you gonna have 365 days stocked with turkeys? Who's gonna make a fucking turkey in the
because
middle of
guys
July?
like me are wandering around the city looking for a place that has a frozen turkey. I'm telling you, man, the system is fucked up.
Okay, well,
Supply
enjoy
chain.
your
Supply chain.
So hold on, just let me get this straight. So you're gonna have a turkey tonight for dinner, and you're
Yeah.
probably gonna have leftovers for the next week, and then in 2 weeks you're gonna make a turkey for Thanksgiving.
Absolutely.
Wow, this coming from a guy who
your mother was not thrilled.
yeah, I bet. Let's get back to the Indiana Pacers. Speaking of turkeys, no, look, they were a great offensive team last year. They stunk on defense. They're gonna have to do something about that. Look, it's conceivable they could come forward.
Siakam's gonna help, bro.
He will. Being there the whole year, he will. It is what it is. They need Halliburton to stay healthy.
Mathurin's going to be an interesting X factor.
See, like I view the East in tiers. Okay, I think the tier 1 is the Knicks, Celtics, and
Philly
and Philly, clearly.
Yeah.
And then you have these 4 teams that we both have the same 4 teams, just in different orders.
Yeah.
Pacers,
Indiana,
Bucks, Orlando, and Cleveland. And you could tell me either one of them is going to be the 4 seed, and I could buy it. I mean, I think those teams are all pretty evenly matched.
Yeah, I agree.
Orlando is a team on the rise.
Yep.
They bring in KCP.
Mm-hmm. Glue guy.
Which are they hungry, Dad?
They're hungry.
Are they a hungry team?
They're really hungry.
They seem like they're hungry. We got to keep a hungry counter for the season.
No, they're good. Hey, listen, they're good. I mean, they got the Wagner boys.
They got Banchero, who's sick.
Yeah, really, I love that guy. Jonathan Isaac. I think who's their center?
Wendell Carter. You always forget who their center.
Oh yeah, Wendell Carter. Yeah,
they got Jalen Suggs.
Right.
Anthony Black is good, and then like you said, the glue guy KCP. Now, everybody was super excited.
Fultz is still there, right?
Yeah, Fultz is still there. He gets hurt every season, but the KCP thing, everybody was freaking out about that. Oh, what a smart move by Orlando, bringing in KCP. It's like, okay, I get it, but he's KCP, right? And you're paying him $72 million over 4 years, so that's a lot of money.
72 million to score 12 points a game and get 8 rebounds and a couple of steals. Hey,
right, and try his best against whatever shooting guard he's guarding. I do think it. You remember the old days with the 7 seconds or less Suns, with Steve Nash got a bunch of guys paid,
Mhm.
right? And it's like Tim Thomas gets signed by the Clippers for like, a 3-year, $30 million deal, which was a lot back then. And then
Right.
Tim Thomas goes to Clippers and they're like, oh, okay, he sucks without Steve Nash. I
Yep.
feel like there's that Jokic effect a little bit too, where there's
Yep.
these guys that are getting paid, like Bruce Brown last year, got a big deal with Indiana, and I mean
Mhm.
he was pretty awful by
Oh.
last
Oh.
season, including his time on the Toronto Raptors.
Yep.
And KCP, I'm worried it might be a similar kind of deal, where it's like, oh, now that he doesn't have Jokic running things, he's not getting as many wide open threes. We'll
Yep.
see. It's
Yep.
still on paper a good signing, and the
Yep.
Cavs, they'll be fine.
The Cavs
Um,
will be okay. I mean, they got Mitchell still, and Jared Allen I like, and Mobley's good. I just
yeah, I'm lukewarm on the Cavs.
I'm so am I. They're a wishy-washy team. They don't
Mm.
have a solid identity yet.
They do have
And
a new coach, Kenny Atkinson.
I like Kenny.
He's
You know,
better than JB Bickerstaff.
oh my God.
The B is
Yeah,
for bum.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Really, he was a horrible coach. But I like Kenny Atkinson, and he can probably juice up that team a little bit. So with the Cavs, yeah, they'll be fine.
underrated coach Kenny Atkinson.
They'll be
Um,
fine. They'll be a playoff team. They'll be pretty good.
so we don't have to talk about every team here at the bottom in the basement of the East, but I do want to touch on the Raptors, who we both had at 8.
Yeah,
So again, this was more just looking at the rest of the East going, I mean, I like once you get past the Pacers or whatever, like the top 7, I
yeah.
couldn't find a team I think is more talented than Toronto.
I
And
know.
look, they got a lot of shit, which I think was unfair they threw a lot of money at Emmanuel quickly,
Yeah.
175 million for 5 years.
Hmm.
It's a lot of money. They locked up Scotty Barnes, which was the logical thing to do. That's just what you do.
Yeah.
If he's your guy, and he was your lottery pick, and now his rookie deal's up. I mean, Cade got the same deal. Franz Wagner got the same deal. Evan Mobley got the same deal. Like, there's no reason that Scotty Barnes has done just as much, if not more, than any of those guys
Yeah.
to warrant that contract. It's just what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Emmanuel Quickly thing, yes, okay, it's a lot of
Yeah.
money, but the cap's going up 10% every year.
Hey, they got a good young core. I mean,
They
look at the
they
core.
do, but the problem
RJ
is like
Barrett.
now you're paying Emmanuel Quickly, Scotty Barnes, and RJ Barrett, and it's
Right.
like if those are the 3 guys that you're paying, is that good enough? Which is a fair question.
Yeah, and
Um,
you know what? Time will tell, but I think they're on the right path. I mean, I
I do
think
too.
that core together is the right decision. They still need to find a big in the middle, and they still need to beef up their bench. I think Grady Dick will be a better player this year.
I do too.
Um,
I do
I
too.
like Davian Mitchell coming in from Sacramento.
Yes, I
Uh,
do too. Underrated move there.
yeah,
Um,
I
he's
really
going to
like
help this team.
the guy they drafted. One of the guys they drafted, Jacoby Walter.
Kobe Walter from Baylor is going to be a good player. He's
He's
raw.
going to be good.
He's raw, but he can
Um,
shoot. And
yeah,
and Jonathan Mobo, the
yeah,
guy from San Francisco, I think he's
yeah,
got a chance to get minutes this year.
yeah.
Um, yeah, man,
They
like
they have
they're
Hurdle in the middle. I mean,
Earl in the middle, whatever. He's serviceable.
yeah. Hey, I mean, the good thing about Jakob is that he sets screens. He's really good at setting screens.
He
And
plays hard, man. Like Jakob
plays
plays
hard. He
hard.
rebounds.
Yeah, he knows where to go and what to do.
He's a
He's a
really
smart
good
player.
passer.
Right. He's not
Oh
gonna, his numbers aren't gonna blow you away, but like
no,
you could do worse as a
yeah,
center. And then look, they have Kelly Olynyk, who's just like a smart
right.
veteran. Same
Yep.
thing with Bruce Brown in theory. I would imagine Bruce Brown's gonna be traded unless they
I
get
would.
off to a good start
Yeah.
and like they don't want to fuck with it. And if it's like, oh, we kind of have a fun like team and a chance to like maybe high end get a 7 seed or something like that if things break right.
I
But if
think
they
even if they do play well and make the playoffs in seventh or eighth spot or whatever, um, or the play-in game, I still think Bruce Brown's going
yeah,
to be
Bruce,
gone.
he's gone. He's gone.
He's
They're gonna
gone.
trade him.
He's not in their future.
No, he's
And
not in their
so,
future, and he's an expiring contract. Like trade the guy.
right,
You know what I mean? Fuck
yeah,
it.
trade that. Yeah,
Um, I think Grady Dick will, like you said, have a good season this year.
yeah,
But I really think that the improvement of Emmanuel Quickly and Scotty Barnes together is going to be the key to how the season unfolds. And I will say this:
yeah.
RJ Barrett, like, don't look now, but after that trade to Toronto, now he went through some stuff. He lost his brother.
I know.
His brother
That was-
passed away in a car accident like
Yeah,
a month after he got traded to the Raptors.
yeah,
And but before that happened, he was on a tear. Like when he got traded from the Knicks, it was just like the weight was just lifted off his shoulders. He was
yep,
playing free. And then that translated into the summer. I thought he was the best player for Team Canada.
I was going to say he was their best player.
He was their best. He was their most consistent player
Yeah,
throughout
he
that
was.
tournament because Shea was getting
He had
swarmed.
a great tournament.
He was
Shea was up and down, but you know what? I mean, we talked about that
he was just getting swarmed,
earlier.
man. And he was
He had five
fucking getting
guys.
triple teamed, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
right. But I mean, RJ was shooting the ball with confidence. He was attack. I love the way he attacks the basket.
yeah.
He's not a perfect player, but I'm a big RJ Barrett fan. And
Me
I'm
too.
happy that they got him because I think he's going to have a big season.
I do too.
And I think the Raptors are going to be better than people think.
Yep, I agree. I agree.
Anybody
And,
else you want to hit on here?
well, you know, I mean, like we said,
You want to talk about your Nets?
no, I'd like to talk about the Pistons. I think the Pistons have some interesting talent.
The Pistons, new head coach, JB Bickerstaff. The B is
Oh
for
my
bum.
God.
I know. Right when we thought the Pistons were doing something good.
Oh my God. Yeah, well, there.
JB is for bum Bickerstaff.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, the rest
He's
of those
awful.
teams, the
But I
Bulls
mean,
are
they
the
had
Bulls are going down, the Heat are going down, the Nets are horrible. The Wiz,
the Wiz are terrible.
the
I
Wiz are
mean,
terrible. The
they got the
Hornets
kid.
have some pieces, but like you said, unless LaMelo's healthy, that team is doomed.
All these teams are fucked, man. And
Yeah.
now look, I think the Pistons are going to be kind of fun. And look, Cade, if he can stay healthy, is a very good player. Jalen Duren is a good player.
Mhm.
They drafted one of the Thompson brothers last year
Yep.
who had a decent rookie season. He's going to
Yep.
be a part of their future. And then they draft a kid. Who they draft this year? The name's blanking, but it was the Ignite guy, Holland,
Oh, right.
Ron
Right.
Holland.
Yes. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
he's a scorer.
Yeah.
Um,
He tore up the G League.
yeah, he's a gifted scorer. There's no doubt about it. Now it's going to take him. He's kind of like Rob Dillingham for the Wolves.
Yeah.
Those two guys were kind of like similar kind of guys. But he's a talented player. You know, they're continuing to acquire young talent. They just got a ways to go. You know, like Charlotte. I think Brandon
they're on the rise, and Charlotte I think is on the rise. But those other teams,
I don't know what to make of the Miami Heat because
Hawks.
Well, the Hawks traded DeJounte Murray. I don't know what they're doing with their roster.
Yeah,
the
Heat got the
Heat,
number one pick in the draft, that French dude, but
right, which was the guy that nobody wanted to have to pick, but it was like, oh well, we got the number one pick, we kind of have to do it, and like he's got but I might be wrong, right? Because you never know with these guys, but he's got bust written all over him, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, remember Bargnani?
Well, yeah. Do I remember Andrea Bargnani? The B is for bum. Yeah, we'll see. I'm not in Atlanta. The Heat, I don't know what the fuck they're doing. You know, they're old and devoid of talent, void of talent, excuse me. And I just don't quite get that team. I mean, I think this is the year. You know, now like they still have probably the best coach in the NBA, and I just don't see it. I just don't think they have any talent.
Just very quickly, two things. We talked about Towns coming over to the Knicks and how that impacts the East. It also impacts the West.
I agree
because I picked Minnesota as my second seed in the West. I think, and
I'm still holding firm on that. I think Minnesota will be. I think Minnesota will be fine. I actually think that less is more sometimes. And it was a bit of a clunky fit with Gobert and Towns, although defensively, man, like they figured something out last year. Like that team, that's why I loved them last season, because they were so good defensively.
Yeah. And Julius Randle's does not play great defense.
No, he doesn't. Dante DiVincenzo's a good defender. But you know what? I think
that's gonna hurt them on defense. And also,
is it though? Because like the Naz Reid minutes last year, sometimes where you're watching, you're going like, I actually kind of like this better than when Cat's on the floor. I'll be honest with you. Now, sometimes it's like, okay, now if Naz Reid is like, your starter, then you're in trouble. But like, look, Randall can still play, man. He can still fill it up.
Yeah.
I think the T-Wolves will be fine.
Interesting. Okay.
There is a couple other things that I want to get.
I just want to bring up, circling back to the Raps. Vince Carter.
Okay, yeah. So we'll talk about this. let's say Vince Carter, because I have another thing. Actually, you know what? Let's do Vince Carter now.
Okay.
And then we'll finish with some ESPN stuff because I think we're done on the East. We pretty much I don't have a lot of poetic to wax about the Chicago Bulls
No, me
and
neither.
Josh Giddey,
Yeah.
and Zach
Ooh.
LaVine. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
So Vince Carter is going to be having his jersey retired. It's this whole kumbaya thing, and I feel like we were talking about this off air a couple days ago about how I just don't quite understand how the pendulum has shifted this much. Now, I do think that after the championship, it kind of was a cathartic moment for the fans and for the franchise. And after that moment, everybody looked back and went, you know what? We've been booing Vince and hating him for 15 years. It's time to let the wounds heal. Now, we've seen this happen with guys, right? Like, I mean, Shaq was not a popular guy in Los Angeles for a while after he left.
Right.
And by the end of his career, it was like, all right, we love Shaq, for everything he did. Vince didn't win 3 titles, but he did do a lot for the franchise. I mean, I'm conflicted here because when I was growing up and when I first fell in love with basketball, the reason why I fell in love with basketball was because of Vince Carter.
Yeah.
I used to try to emulate his dunks on a little Nerf hoop in our basement.
And you were magnificent.
And it was like Iverson was another guy for me and Kobe growing up. But really, I mean, Vince was like the hero in Toronto for a couple of years there. And he was an electric player. There's no doubt about it. And he elevated the franchise to a level of, I guess, recognizability that that was important for the evolution of the Toronto Raptors.
And of basketball in Canada.
Yeah. Having said that, he quit on the team, and
yes, he did.
Which in one of the all-time douchiest moves ever by an athlete.
Yep.
Demands a trade, forces the Raptors into one of the worst trades in history. That was his fault. And then
Rob
goes on. Well, Rob Babcock didn't help. That guy was a fucking idiot.
Oh my God.
And then he goes on national TV and he basically says, "Yeah, the last year I didn't try. I wanted out of there." Now,
he actually went on television with John Thompson and confessed that he quit on the team.
Yeah,
it's on tape. So to your point, I'm conflicted too, because of all of the good things that you just covered in terms of what Vince did for basketball, for the Raptors franchise, and also for basketball in this country. Yes, that he did. No denying it. His impact on the sport. But I can't forgive him for that. I can't forgive a player for quitting on their own team. He reminds me of Ricky Davis when he was on the Cavs, going for, he needed 1 rebound to get a triple double. And he took a shot on his own basket and got the rebound to get that rebound, to get a triple double. And he could have knocked it in and lost the game if he had hit the basket if the ball went in. What a selfish thing to do. Same thing with Scottie Pippen refusing to come on the floor
right. After they didn't draw that, they drew up a play for Tony Kukoc.
Yeah, they wrote a play for Tony Kukoc, and Phil and wrote a play for Kukoc, and Scottie refused to come off the floor in the middle of a playoff game. That's where I draw the line. And so those guys like that, they're selfish, and I have no time for them. And they ruin the sport. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, look, I look back at Vince and
I mean, hey, they're putting Vince up, but now, again, look, he never won a playoff series as a Raptor.
Yeah, he did win a playoff series.
Okay, but he never went into the second round.
No, he didn't, but he did. I mean, I'm sorry, in that another big part of the Vince story in Toronto was that Philly series. And the game 7 where he flew to North Carolina for his graduation.
There you go, to graduate.
Now, I will say this. Yes, was that a selfish move? Absolutely. Yes. But then again, I mean, he had a shot to win the game. If that goes in, then no one ever mentions that. I mean, he's still, I will give him credit for this. Even though that decision was probably not smart going to his graduation the day of the game 7, he still came out and played his fucking ass off, man. And he also dropped 50 3 times in that series. So it's the question of yeah, I get it, but if it wasn't for Vince Carter, they wouldn't have been in a game 7, right? So there's I was at game 6. I think you took me to games. No, you didn't. You took me to game 4 in Toronto
Mhm.
that they won. But then in game 6, when they were down 3-2, that was when Vince went for like 57 and just completely took over. It was one of the great playoff performances ever by a Raptor.
Mhm.
And again, that series, it represents, I think that series against Philly encapsulates the Vince Carter experience with Toronto Raptors, man, because like it was, you saw the best of Vince and the worst of Vince. Now,
Yep.
The dunk contest was amazing. I'm sorry. Like that was an amazing moment. Like
Yep.
as a
And to
young,
me, and to me, his dunk over Frederick Weiss at the Olympics in Sydney was
yes,
probably, I think, one of the greatest
it was
in-game
the
dunks.
greatest in-game
It
dunk
was, yeah,
ever.
it was
And he also
ever.
had the greatest slam dunk contest dunk ever. Like he's the greatest dunker ever in the history of the game. And I don't think it's close. I mean,
Yeah.
you could throw Michael, whatever, Dominique, Spud Webb. There's been a couple guys like I like Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon put on an absolute show
Mhm.
in the Toronto dunk contest, but like Vince,
Oh,
there was no one
Vince's
like Vince.
body of work. Yeah, I mean, Vince for sure.
And in some of the in-game dunks, man, if you watch his highlights, like, oh
Oh, I
my
know.
God, there's some crazy in-game dunks. And I mean,
Yeah.
like, when the Raptors were on the road, they were selling out arenas, like in LA
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
Dallas and Cleveland, wherever. Like, everybody wanted to see Vince Carter play.
Yeah.
Does he deserve to have his jersey hung? It's
Well,
debatable,
listen, I mean, hey, he's being elected into the NBA Hall of Fame,
which I think is deserved.
which I think is deserving too. Absolutely. He had a long career and won a lot of games and did a lot of good things.
Scored a
Uh,
shitload of points. And it's
yeah.
more to me like, could you describe that era of basketball without mentioning that guy? And I don't think
No,
you can.
no.
I think he was
So
very important to that era of basketball, the
yeah,
early
he won.
2000s, because
Yeah.
he had some like we just talked about, the Frederick Weiss dunk, the All-Star dunk contest in Oakland in 2000,
Yeah.
and a couple playoff moments. Now, like that's the thing with Vince, his
Well,
playoff career.
yeah. I mean, for me, Eddie, it comes down to uh, I don't know. I like the fact that he's done all those great things, but and I don't know. Here's the thing. He's going to be elected into the Hall of Fame, so that's great. And is he therefore is he deserving of raising his jersey in the rafters at the Scotiabank? Yes, obviously, but the issue that I have with it is that it should have been Kyle Lowry first. Kyle Lowry should have been the
Kyle's
first.
still playing, Dad.
I know, but they should have waited until Lowry retires.
I
Then
know. I get it.
no, really, it's important. Lowry should have been. I mean, he's a no-brainer.
Yeah, he is a
He's a
no-brainer.
no-brainer for a Hall of Famer, and he's a no-brainer to get his jersey retired up in the rafters. So, but they should have given Lowry first, and then waited, and then did Vince. Vince Carter being the first Raptor up there, I just think it's wrong. That's me.
I get it. But Lowry's still playing. It's the 30-year anniversary, Dad.
I
Like,
know, I
they have
know.
to do it, man. Like
Well, I
they have
guess,
to.
I guess.
This is like and Vince came first. I don't think it matters. I don't care that much about it. I'm more just like, honestly, as a diehard Raptors fan, I'm sorry, man. It's fuck Vince Carter for life. I hate that guy. He can go fuck
Okay.
himself. So
Oh yeah.
I frankly, I get why the fans have forgiven him, but me personally, I will never forgive Vince Carter
I will never forgive him either.
because whatever, he ruined my life for the first I mean, I kicked a hole in our wall once because of Vince
I
Carter.
know.
You
I
remember that?
know. Yes,
Vince
I
Carter had a
do.
game winner when he was on the Nets in Toronto over, whoever, Anthony Parker's head. And I
Yeah.
went and I was like, what, 10 years old,
Yeah.
11 years old, and I kicked a hole in our wall.
Yeah, you did.
I was so mad at Vince Carter.
We're so mad. I know.
I was in a lot of
Oh,
trouble
well,
that
there you
night.
go. That's Vince Carter.
I was in a lot of
He
trouble that
instills
night.
passion in a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We're so over time, but we have to do just 2 minutes on this.
Yeah.
So
All right.
ESPN, um, Adrian Wojnarowski quits,
Yep.
becomes the general manager for the Bonnies. Same
I
Bonnie.
know.
Shout
I
out.
know.
And then a week later, they fire Zach Lowe.
Yep.
And it's like, what is ESPN doing?
Saving money.
Well, right, but they just spent $500 billion or whatever it was for the rights.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't quite understand. I think, obviously, I'm in the sports media field. That's what I do for a profession.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't see the vision. I guess what they're trying to do, they have basketball, they have the Super Bowl, they have Monday Night Football, and they have the UFC deal. And basically what they're saying is we don't care about having Zach Lowe was he has a top 10 sports podcast in the world. Okay. He's a good writer.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good TV guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's versatile. You can move him around. But I don't think their TV product matters as much in terms of the pregame shows and the shows. I think they're like, people are going to watch basketball anyway. People are going to watch football anyway. So who gives a shit?
And also, like, I mean, I think this is their last season with Ernie and Chuck and Shaq and.
Well, but that's TNT, Dad.
No, I know, but the same kind of thing, right? I mean, it's.
Well, I know, but I'm talking about ESPN specifically. Like, why are they doing this? Because the rumblings about Wojnarowski were that the same thing was going to happen to him, and
Yeah, but hold on, Eddie. But ESPN took over the rights from TNT, right?
Yeah, they did. Well, no, they already shared the rights from TNT. It's
Yeah, but now
NBC.
they're keeping the TNT the pregame show. They're keeping that for the next year, but then
No, they're not.
They're not.
TNT, because TNT still has the contract until the end of next season.
Oh, okay.
That's why that show's going to be back after next season.
After next season, then
after this coming season, it's going to go to Amazon Prime, NBC, and ESPN. Those are going to be the three, right? And the thing, like, it's like, if you're willing to pay that much money for the TV contract, and then you're cheaping out on a $7 million on a $2 million deal for Zach Lowe, I just don't get it. And it's pretty clear to
making
me.
7.
Sorry?
Wojnarowski was making 7.
Right. Okay, fair enough. But to me, they are punting on having a good quality product and just focusing on having guys that you can clip and send breakout videos for your TikTok page, like our TikTok page at the Ball Boys Podcast 2024. But that's all they care about. All they want is to have Kendrick Perkins on there saying, I don't know what's going on with Jason Tatum. He's got to play better because he's not a top 10 player in my book. And then all of a sudden there's like an article and it says Kendrick Perkins doesn't think Jason Tatum's a top 10 player. And then it's clickbait, right? I think they care more about those where it's like, I can have a guy up for 45 seconds. He'll say something controversial, and then we can throw it up on all our social medias, on our YouTube, our TikTok. But I mean, like, you look at what ESPN, the change that they've gone through over the last year, right? They fire Van Gundy, okay? Then they bring in Doc and JJ, lose both of those guys.
Yeah.
After firing Van Gundy, then Woj, sniffs out that he's going to be let go. He jumps ship. Then he fires Zach Lowe, who's one of their best NBA writers. Yeah. I just don't get it. It's like, I mean,
I don't get it. I don't get it either.
It really makes no sense. And I just, like, who's running things, right? Meanwhile, you have Shannon Sharp putting out a sex tape. Did you see that?
No.
Shannon Sharp went live on his Instagram having sex with a woman, and you could hear the whole thing.
Jesus.
And he didn't even get suspended. It's like, what is going on? Like, who's running things at ESPN? It makes no sense to me. Yeah. And I just don't understand that. And like the Zach Lowe thing, like, look, man, like, I followed Zach Lowe's coverage. I listened to his podcast. He's a good reporter. And I just don't quite understand. Anyway, you're right. Let's wrap things up. We got to go. Yep. Okay, we'll be back next week. Yep. Find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok. Yep. Go check us out. And Dad, I hope the Brooklyn Nets have a good season.
I'll think of you when I'm eating my turkey.
Yeah, they're hungry. Okay, go enjoy your turkey. I'll talk to you next week.
All right. See ya.